So it's almost August, and so here we are with my August TBR. How are all my lovely bookish friends doing today? It's Heather with Belle's Library. If you guys are new here, definitely subscribe, and everybody like this video, and let's talk about the mountain of books that I would like to read this month. I feel like every time I put together a TBR lately, I just never actually follow it because all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, let me get involved in this readathon, or let me, read with this, or, oh, actually this book is grabbing my attention, so I'm not really sure that these books are going to get read, but this is my general plan. I also know that all of these books I'm talking to you right now will not get read in the month of August because there's just too many. So, but this is just a bunch of the books that I would like to read in August, pretty much, and kind of the collection of books that are in my thoughts and on my mind in August to read. So yes, let's just get started, and you guys will see as we go along what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's start with a couple of arcs that are coming out in September that I'm hoping to read this month so that I will have read them before they come out, and I can give you guys some thoughts and see if they're worth you guys picking up. So the first arc we're going to talk about is called In Case You Missed It. And this one is a second chance romance, which is one of my favorites. This girl is coming home in her adult life, and she's hoping to, I think, just kind of restart life. And when she gets there, like, all her friends have already moved on, and her parents are doing their thing, and everybody's just kind of moved on. And then all of a sudden she gets a message from her ex-boyfriend that she was madly in love with before, and so we're going to see if things maybe pick up and work out again. The other arc that I have is Firefrost, and this one's more of a fantasy. My brief understanding is there's a journey these two are going on. One of them is more icy, and she needs to thaw her heart, and one of them is getting consumed in fire, and I don't really know much more than that, but we'll see when I actually start reading it. Whenever I make these TBR videos, I'm always like, I kind of know what I'm talking about, but I don't because I haven't read the book. So it's kind of weird to explain some of these sometimes. Anyways, this summer I also really wanted to read more Circus books, so I'm working on that at the moment. So I've got a few on my TBR that hopefully I'll be able to get to. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is a beloved circus book about a circus that pops up in the middle of the night without warning, and there's some kind of rivalry going on between a couple of the circus stars, I believe, and a romance and such. I also would love to reread Water for Elephants because I love this book. I love the movie. Really good, and so yes, I would love to reread this. I'm also in the middle of the audiobook for Caraval and really enjoying it, so I'm hoping that that continues, and when I finish it up, I will be able to move into Legendary because, yeah, I am like really enthralled in the world right now, and maybe I can get to the sequel. I also intended in July to get to A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir because I really enjoyed An Ember in the Ashes, and I want to continue the series. So hopefully that will happen this month. So if you guys don't know the basic premise of this story, I don't want to tell much about this book because obviously don't want to give things away for the first book, but Maya is a slave for the commandant, and she's also somewhat part of the rebellion against the Empire, who are very brutal and totalitarianist, which is totally not a word, but you know what I mean. And then we also have Elias, who is one of the soldiers, and he's being trained to basically keep people in their place in the Empire, but secretly he just wants to get away from all of it. And this is the second story in that story, and yeah, I'm really excited to get it out. So that should be happening very soon. I also would like to get to Goddess in the Machine. This was July's Owlcrate book, and I'm trying to read my Owlcrate books and be able to give you guys a review with my unboxings in the next month. So this one I'm going to have to read soon, so it's done in time for August Owlcrate. Gosh, I love the sprayed edges on this one. Sounds really interesting though. It's about this girl who is put into a cryonic sleep, and it's only supposed to be for like 100 years, but it ends up being for like 1,000. When she wakes up, all these people are like worshiping her, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and obviously everybody she knew is dead, and so should be kind of interesting. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to maneuver through these. I guess I will go through all the books that I actually own physically, and then we'll talk about a few that I have that are coming up on my holds in my library app. So I also am thinking about starting City of Bones in the Shadowhunter series here. This is a very beloved series and is about these Shadowhunters who basically are hunters of different magical creatures, and basically they're out to kill like werewolves and vampires and that kind of thing. And then this girl ends up seeing this happen, and she's like, what the heck, I just saw a murderer, but the guy just disappeared. And so stories about all of that. I also would like to get to The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. This one seems really interesting and is about this mom who ends up traveling into the future because her baby needs a surgery that can't be done in her time, so they go to another time in which it can be done. I also would like to try The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. As you guys know, I didn't love my last Kristen Hanna book, but I've heard so many good things about this one, so I am wanting to try it out and see where it goes. This one is in the World War II era about two sisters in France, and one of them joins basically the rebellion against Germany, and the other one is just trying to stay quiet and survive for her and her child, and it's their two stories. I've heard it's really good. The last of my physical books is the Shades of Magic series, and these ones honestly were not originally on my TBR, but my book club that I have on Facebook, We Be Bookin', is doing a 48-hour readathon in the month of August for V.E. Schwab's books, and so I may continue into this series. I've read the first one, so I kind of want to reread it, but I might just go into the second one. We'll see when we get there, or if I end up participating at all. I'm not totally sure. And just a few more books. We're almost there. Almost done. I told you, there's way too many books that I'm not going to actually be able to read all these. But I do have a couple books coming up on hold from my library. One is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I really enjoyed A Million Junes by her, and I've heard tons of good things about this one. Basically following two writers who used to know each other and were kind of rivals when they knew each other before, and then they both end up at beach houses right next to each other. One of them writes literary fiction, the other one writes romance, and they end up swapping genres because they're kind of in ruts, and they have to teach each other a little bit about each other's genre, and romance ensues. And I've heard that there's some harder hitting aspects to this book as well, so I'm excited to get to that one. I also have The Guest List by Lucy Foley coming up soon, and this one is kind of a murder mystery. I've heard it has some Clue vibes, which I love the movie, and I also really enjoyed like the board game's like my favorite board game ever. So yes, definitely a Clue fan, and basically it's about this wedding party that ends up stuck on this island, and you're following all their different perspectives, and there's like a murder, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And I've heard it's really good, so I'm excited to get to that one. I also have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin that's going to be coming up on my holds, and this one is based on African folklore, I believe it is. So basically we're following this guy who, his sister gets kidnapped, and in order to get her back, he has to win this competition that the queen is putting on, or the princess. I think she's still a princess. But then the princess is putting on the competition because she needs a king's heart in order to do this spell to bring her mom back. And so basically and the guy needs to win the competition in order to kill the princess. So the two of them are basically going to try to kill each other. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff going on that's going to, make this a very interesting book. So I'm excited to get to that one. I also Wanted to get to Bruja Born this month because I read Labyrinth Lost, I believe in June, and I really enjoyed that book. And we're following Alex, which is one of 3 sisters in there. And then Bruja Born is the next in the series, and it follows Lula, and that's her book. So basically there's 3 books in the series, each about one of the sisters. And in September, the last book is coming out for this series, so I was trying to catch up in order for that one to be released. So hopefully I'll get to this one. And the absolute last book that I am considering reading this month would be The Diviners. This is a really popular series. It just wrapped up, I believe, this year the last book came out, or it was like late last year, pretty recently. And it's set in the 1920s, and there's like witchcrafty stuff going on. I don't know, I read the synopsis before I started this, and so I could try to explain it better. But this girl ends up moving in with her uncle in New York City, and he investigates like weird crimes that have kind of magical sides to them. And she also has some kind of gift, and she realizes she can help her uncle solve, I believe it's a murder. And so that's kind of where the story goes from there. I don't know how mystery-ish it is. I've heard it's more historical fiction. So, or not, yeah, historical fiction. So I don't know, I'm not totally sure, but it just sounds really interesting every time anybody talks about it. I like the 1920s, find that era very interesting. I like, kind of paranormal witchy type stuff. I don't know, it just sounds interesting. So I think I've talked about a lot of books and I'm starting to ramble. So here's a few of the books that I talked about in my TBR, and let me know what you guys are thinking about reading in August.